Hello everyone and welcome back to Dungeons & Death Battles, the series in which we search for the most lethal monsters in all of Dungeons & Dragons. Today we will be smashing our way through Season 4, in which 16 deadly dungeon denizens, as voted on by you incredible arena patrons, will be battling it out to see which one of them is worthy of taking home the CR4 crown. The arena rules are simple, the monsters start 30 feet apart, there is no fleeing the map, victory is achieved by kill only, and outside influence is not allowed. As you well know at this point in the series, 16 deadly CR4 dungeon denizens have been pitted against each other, with the sole purpose of whittling them down until we find the most barbaric of the bunch. At this point in time, only 4 remain, with each of these stalwart monsters having battled through from the qualifying rounds, each making their mark and cementing their place in arena history. But with all that being said, there can still only be one that walks out of the arena with the glorious title of CR4 champion, and today we continue toward that endgame as we smash into the semi-final rounds. Tonight, the tremendous Stegosaurus will be going head-to-head against the brutal Helmed Horror in a battle that will surely shake the stands and prove to be one of the finest battles yet. Both of these creatures are well known for their extreme melee prowess, with the Stegosaurus wielding the single most lethal weapon the arena has seen to date, while the Helmed Horror challenges its prehistoric foe's wrath with equally devastating defensive capabilities, as well as a punishing multi-attack that has seen it perform well under arena conditions. As I glance down into the pits, I can see that the teams are diligently preparing their corners, the Stegosaurus' handlers making sure it is in tip-top condition, while the Helmed Horror appears to have been joined by a mysterious hooded figure, something that we have not yet witnessed up until this point, as the Horror does genuinely attend to appear alone. But ringside happenings aside, while the teams and our very own kobold stewards prepare for this evening's event, we do have time to jump into a combatant analysis. In today's blue corner, we play host to the humble Stegosaurus, a creature from a time long thought forgotten. This prehistoric powerhouse has returned to do battle once again, where it promises to bring you wonderful viewers excitement as it throws around its devastating Thagomizer, which, upon a successful strike, will be dealing an ever impressive 66 plus 5 points of piercing damage, an extremely punishing attack that has wrought an immense amount of destruction in the arena thus far. The Stegosaurus of course strides forth with a 76 hit point average and an AC of 13, with these being backed by heavyweight physical statistics but lower than average mental capabilities, which is exactly what you would expect from an ancient herbivore that relies on bulk and strength to survive. The Stegosaurus truly is a simple creature, but this is a natural recipe that has clearly worked very well, as it has made it this far in the tournament. And with that, we look over to the red corner, in which floats the Helmed Horror, a magical construction, an ever ominous presence in the arena, and the Horror will be looking to bring a swift end to its animalistic opponent. The Horror has become well known here in the arena for its incredible defensive capabilities, as it does boast a massive 20 AC alongside a respectable hit point average of 67. It does also have magic resistance and immunity to 3 spells of its creator's choosing, although these powerful abilities will be of no consequence in this battle, as the Stegosaurus is purely mundane. This creature also has one of the highest immunity counts we have seen in the arena, with immunity to necrotic and poison damage, as well as the blinded, charmed, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, and stunned conditions. The Helmed Horror can also fly, and is able to make 2 strikes per turn with its arcane sword, dealing 1d8 plus 4 plus 1d10 points of slashing and force damage respectively on a hit. Again, the Horror has become well known as a creature to fear in the arena, with its Stegosaurus counterpart holding the same renown, which will likely make for an intense battle here tonight. And with all that said, it does look like the teams and our kobold stewards are ready to rumble, which does mean that it is time to set the semi-finals underway as we roll in for initiative, starting with the Stegosaurus and its -1 modifier. So kicking things off here in the arena tonight, Stegosaurus -1 to its initiative. Let's see what it can do. And that is rolling in with a 17, -1 for 16. Still an incredibly respectable roll there from the dinosaur, and the Helmed Horror has got some catching up to do if it wants to beat that number. So Helmed Horror rolling in here a +3, looking to beat a 16 total. And an 8 plus 3 is only going to bring that roll up to an 11, which does mean that the Stegosaurus is first off the mark here tonight. Its roll of a 17 coming through even with that -1 modifier, and as such, spur spurred on by its handlers behind it, clearly pushing it forward as they attempt to incite its animalistic primal rage. The Stegosaurus will use its 40 feet of movement to bound towards the Helmed Horror's position, where it will immediately kick things off by throwing in with a Thagomizer attack. Now this does have a +7 to hit and is looking to beat the Helmed Horror's AC of 20, which is still going to be a difficult challenge for the monster. The Stegosaurus rolling in hit +7 to this roll. Thagomizer coming in hot. And with a 19 +7 for 26, the Stegosaurus is making itself known immediately straight out of the gate here, as the Helmed Horror simply does not have time to react. That Thagomizer striking in hard. And that does mean that the Stegosaurus will now be dealing 6d6 plus 5 points of piercing damage, as its spiked weapon of mass destruction just hurls through the air, connecting with the Helmed Horror. And so 6d6 plus 5 points of piercing damage rolling in. And that is a very, very average hit indeed there, rounding everything up, with 2 6s for 12, plus those 2 2s right there for 14. Of course, then topped up by those 2 3s, with that +5 modifier, bringing that up to 25 points of damage total, which will be bringing the Helmed Horror down from 67 to 42 hit points. And I can hear an eruption of cheers and roars from the crowd as the Stegosaurus opens up tonight's semi-finals. What an incredible attack. But with that, we will be handing over to the Helmed Horror, which will have no choice than to close the gap and make 2 arcane sword attacks of its own. The Helmed Horror's cold, calculating mind realizing that even if it does use its usual strategy of taking to the skies and baiting out single attacks, that is going to make no difference here, as unlike its previous opponents, the Stegosaurus does not rely on a multi-attack and instead just has that single cannon of a tail strike, which does mean that there will be no advantage to the Helmed Horror's dip in, dip out strategy. And that does mean that the construct is going to be engaging in melee combat, where it will be throwing in with 2 arcane sword attacks. So first rolling in here, looking to beat the Stegosaurus' natural armor, its AC of 13, Helmed Horror +6, first roll. And a 17 +6 for 23. The Horror is matching the dinosaur's energy here as that first strike connects. It may have been shaken by that Thagomizer, but it has not been stirred. And this does mean that we will be rolling in with 1d8 plus 4 points of slashing damage, plus 1d10 points of force damage. So rolling in for the Helmed Horror here on its first attack. And that certainly could have been higher, with a 1 and a 4 coming together for 5. Of course, being topped up by that 4-point modifier to make for 9 points of damage, which will be dropping the Stegosaurus from 76 to 67 hit points as the Helmed Horror's second attack rolls in. Once again, looking to be that AC of 13. And that is a 13 indeed, with its +6 bringing it up to 19. That does mean that the Helmed Horror's second strike has connected, as we roll in with more damage yet again. 1d8 plus 4 points of slashing, plus 1d10 points of force. And that is a much stronger hit right there, with a 6 plus 4 for 10, plus that 3 for 13 more points of damage, which will be further reducing the Stegosaurus down to 54 hit points. And with that, the Helmed Horror's turn will come to an end, as we once again hand over to the brutal force of nature that is the Stegosaurus, which will be responding, having been slashed up by the Helmed Horror's arcane blade, with yet again another Thagomizer strike, as it thrashes away and looks to beat away the creature that is antagonizing it. Once again, Stegosaurus rolling in, Thagomizer +7 to hit. And with an 18 +7 for 25. That is an absolute hammer of a hit yet again. The Helmed Horror is just unable to stave off that massive tail. And that does mean once again the Stegosaurus will be hitting him with 6d6 plus 5 points of piercing damage, as the hammer falls down hard upon the Helmed Horror yet again. So rolling in, let's see just how powerful this strike is. And as it happens, that is a pretty strong strike, with 2 4s, a 6, a 3, a 1 and a 5, all coming together for 23 points of damage, which of course be topped up by that 5 modifier to make for 28 points of damage. And that strike right there, 28 points of damage, will be bringing the Helmed Horror even further down from 42 to just 14 hit points remaining, as the Stegosaurus proves once again just how it has made it this far in the arena. That Thagomizer attack just being absolutely crippling when it hits, and as it has displayed in the arena thus far, it does intend to keep those hammer strikes coming. And with that, the Helmed Horror could very well realize that it is in fact in deep trouble. But as the Stegosaurus is such a simple fighter, and the Horror has no ranged attacks to make use of, it simply has no choice but to remain where it is, battering away with its own weapon, its arcane sword. And therefore it will be rolling in once again with 2 more melee attacks, hoping that it can end the Stegosaurus before it gets the chance to connect once again with that tail. So Helmed Horror first attack rolling in, arcane sword, +6 to this, looking to be that AC of 13. And a 15 plus 6 for 21 will do the job, as we roll in once again with 1d8 plus 4 points of slashing damage plus 1d10 points of force damage. And again, a very, very low damage roll there from the Helmed Horror. Perhaps the Stegosaurus really is starting to make its mark, as the attacks just weigh heavy on the Helmed Horror's morale, with that 1 and that 2 of course coming together to make for 3, which will be topped up by the modifier, which actually exceeds the roll on the dice. The modifier of course being 4, which will bring that 3 up to 7 points of damage, which will bring the Stegosaurus from 54 to 47 hit points. But all is not over for the Horrors. It does have another attack to make this round. Rolling in once again, looking to be that AC of 13 with its plus 6 modifier. And a 13 yet again. The Helmed Horror is at least consistent with its strikes. That's 6, topping that 13 up to 19. Does mean it will be able to deal yet more damage this round, and they will be looking to maximize this. Rolling in. And that is much better, with a 6 and a 5 for 11, topped up by that 4 for 15 more points of damage this time, as it opens up yet another gash in the Stegosaurus's hide, dropping its hit points even further down to 32. So with that, once again, the Helmed Horror will be passing over to the Stegosaurus, which, flailing around as it gets more injured, it looks to be getting more and more angry. And that can go one of two ways. Perhaps the anger can cloud its judgment, causing a miss, or perhaps it's just going to make this next strike even more dangerous. But we are about to find out here as the Stegosaurus rolls in once again. Thagomizer attack coming in hot. And an 11 plus 7 is only going to total 18, which does mean that the Stegosaurus has missed. The red cloud that seems to be breezing over its mind, causing a sudden lapse in judgment, as the Helmed Horror is able to dip out of the way of that third tail attack, which does mean that we will be handing back over to the construct, which will yet again be weighing in with 2 more arcane sword strikes. First one coming in. And a 14 plus 7 for 21, yet again another strike. Let's roll in some more damage. And a 7 and a 3 will round up for 10, topped up by that 4 for 14 more points of damage. That's a lot better from the Helmed Horror, as it drops the Stegosaurus from 32 to 18 hit points. And it does have yet another attack to throw in with. Can the Helmed Horror make it work right here, using that previous Stegosaurus miss to its advantage? It rolls in again, the Arcane Sword plus 6, looking to be an AC of 13. And a natural 1 from the Helmed Horror. That is not what it needed at all. That, of course, means that that misses. That is a very, very crucial roll right there from the construct. The Spirit Servitor rolling in with a natural 1, which does mean that its turn will be passing over to the Stegosaurus, which again has panic and fear in its eyes, which has intermingled with that source of bloodlust and fury, which it will hope to use to unleash against the Helmed Horror here, as these creatures go toe to toe, blow for blow. Stegosaurus rolling in with another Thagomizer. And the Stegosaurus comes through with a polarizing roll right here against the Helmed Horror. A natural 20 from the dinosaur, the prehistoric monolith, unleashing the full potential of its might and wrath as it rolls in with that critical hit right here in the arena tonight, which does mean that it will be dealing 12d6 plus 5 points of piercing damage against the Helmed Horror, which now has very, very little chance of survival with just 14 hit points remaining. But on that tremendous critical strike, let's see what the Stegosaurus can do. This is what happens when you anger a hulking beast such as the Stegosaurus. Question number 1 is, do I even have enough dice for this? And it turns out that I do, just about. So here we go. Critical hit from the Stegosaurus. 12d6 plus 5 points of piercing damage here in this semi-final bout. Rolling in. And with a 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 5, 5, 1, 5, 1, 2, and 2 coming together to total for 32 points of damage. 5 modifier is going to top that up all the way to 37 points of damage, which is going to be more than enough to put an end to the Helmed Horror's career, as that Thagomizer just rises up from the air and smashes down upon the Helmed Horror, crushing the creature's carapace into the ground, where it does look to have in fact made an imprint in the arena floor itself. The Stegosaurus bellows once again, knowing full well that its opponent has stopped moving and that it is safe once again for now, and that damage output in fact being enough to drop the Helmed Horror to negative 23 hit points. What an absolutely climactic ending to this semi-final battle. The Stegosaurus just proving its worth as a mighty champion indeed, as its strength has been able to overcome the defensiveness of the Helmed Horror. And without much more to say, the Stegosaurus will be rising through into the CR4 final round, where it will either be taking on the Yuan-Ti Nightmare Speaker or the Spectator, to see which will leave the arena with the CR4 crown. And with all of that, And I would like to thank you all once again very much for watching. And if you did enjoy what you saw, please consider dropping a like on the video, commenting down below, and subscribing to the channel. And as I've said, I do hope you join me again next time when the Yuan-Ti Nightmare Speaker takes on the Spectator in the second of our semi-final rounds, as they will go head-to-head to determine which one of them will be battling it out with the Stegosaurus for that Season 4 crown. And with the finals encroaching ever closer to us, I would like to announce to everybody that voting for Season 5's battles will begin within the next week. Make sure to keep your eye over on the Patreon, which will have votes that we will be using to determine the combatants for that season. And with all that said, thank you once again very much for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon.